About 2 years ago, give or take, I don't remember exactly when, but I was involved in this minor internet altercation. I was doing my best to make the affection display. I didn't call it by that name at the time, but doing my best not to have a fight because of the second rule of the Church of Splendor. I am not arguing with you. I really wasn't in any, I didn't have any need to argue with this person, but he had a great big need to argue with me, and he was trying to think of the most outrageous insults he could issue to me in order to wound me. I mean, I don't know, you can't judge another person's motivation. What is his reason? I mean, his reason actually is lashing out in anger, the attempt to inflict injury, not in pursuit of inflicting the injury, but as I suppose as an act of emotional self-defense. It's easy for me to see it that way, and therefore not to take it very seriously, certainly not to take it to heart, and not to take any sort of offense, because who gives a shit? It's hard for me to make analogies about barking dogs, because dogs don't bark at me. Dogs like me. The meanest dogs like me. I smell like dog. I smell like lots of dog, and I smell like good dogs. But it's really no different from a dog barking. A dog in a backyard behind a fence, or tied to a clothesline pole or whatever. This dog is no threat, whatever. All he is noise, and that's what this was. That's the way I saw it. It was just ugly noise, and attempting to make the universe more beautiful by being ugly toward it. Very bad reasoning, very bad idea of proportionality. No big deal to me at all, but one of the insults he issued was to accuse me of being engaged in the business of self-help, which I thought was really funny at the time, because I don't think of myself that way. I recognize that a whole lot of the stuff that I say could easily be interpreted as being self-help, and I'm not alien to the idea of being poetic about the things that I say in the way that self-help mechanics often are. Zig Ziglar is one of my favorites, and I'm apt, when I'm speaking in public, I'm apt to quote Zig Ziglar in a very affected Zig Ziglar voice, because I just think it's funny. You can have as much as you want in this world if you're willing to help enough people get what they want. It's reasonably true. There's nothing untrue about it. It's completely non-rigorous. It's essentially undefended. And yet it's common sense, and therefore it's easy to see the truth of the matter, that most of the people who have managed to lawfully and honorably accumulate wealth have done it by selling other people what they want. Selling it to them in huge quantities. You want to talk about someone who is a billionaire. Typically someone who is a billionaire has sold a whole lot of products, more than 1 million, maybe more than 1 billion. The heirs to the Coca-Cola fortune, or whatever, how many billions of bottles of Coca-Cola have gone into making those people rich. Anheuser-Busch family, the Bush family, and all their wealth. There are all kinds of stories of great fortunes that you can read, and all kinds of spin that you can see put on those fortunes, but what really is the case is that someone like Rockefeller accumulates an enormous amount of money in his lifetime. I'm not saying anything at all about his heirs or what they did with the money, but someone like Rockefeller or Bill Gates accumulates an enormous amount of money by selling an enormous number of people something that they're willing to part with major ducats to get, serious money to get, even if it's as cheap as a bottle of Coke. Nevertheless, money is infinitely fungible. There's all kinds of things that could have been done with that money. And to trade 85 cents or $1.85 or whatever for a bottle of Coke, when you could have done something else with that money, the people who sold you that bottle of Coke earned their money. earned their money in your estimation by the fact that you gave it to them instead of giving it to someone else instead, or saving it, or investing it. And in that respect, every expenditure can be viewed as a sort of an investment, that when you part with that 85 cents for a can of Coke, you're investing in your immediate indulgence and ideally in your future productivity. You're throwing some caffeine and sugar in your body so you can pound it on a little harder, a little faster, a little better, a little longer. But it was funny to have this insult thrown at me that I'm engaged in self-help. I guess I am. I don't think of what I do as being that way, but I don't have any problem with it. It certainly was not an insult. If I'm providing any sort of intellectual, philosophical benefit to other people, I'm glad of that. It's what I do this for. It's what I'm doing this for. And it's not a matter of charity or self-sacrifice or some sort of altruistic duty for me. I don't see it that way at all. I see it as a matter of I know something that other people don't know, and the more I share it, the more of it there'll be. It will be better for me. I do everything I do for D reasons. I am nothing but a D. I am extremely high in every way that you can measure drivenness. I am that driven, and to the extent that I'm offering to help you in a way that might be described as self-help, I'm doing it for my own purposes, for my own benefit, not immediate pecuniary benefit. Wouldn't be terrible. Part with some dough, I'm definitely interested. Go to selfadoration.com, look for I Don't Go to Your Church, and follow the link from there. There's a way for you to give money to the Church of Splendor, but that's really not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is for you to adopt my style of thinking, my way of thinking, and apply it and do well with it, and ideally do better with it than I'm doing it, do it so well that you can teach it back to me even better. That's what I'm up to. And to the extent that you want to call that self-help, I mean, have at it. Go right at it. I wrote a book this year called Shiley's Delight, the last of the books that I wrote this year. Very short book, deliberately very short book. That is a self-help book, and I start off calling it that. Don't you just hate self-help books? I sure do. Full of bullshit promises that they can't deliver on. I wrote a self-help book that's exactly the opposite of that. It's full of promises, but I deliver on all of them. And if you read, learn, mark, inwardly digest Shiley's Delight and put it into practice, it will change your life and dramatically change your life in the long run, in the near term, and in the short run. Immediately it will change your life. Just learning to think the way I think, to think like a driven sociable. Especially if you're largely incandescent or cautious right now, even if you're largely sociable now. To learn to think like a driven sociable, to pursue your goals like a driven sociable, to be driven in the pursuit of sociable goals. That's what it boils down to. That's the argument in Shiley's Delight, and that's the argument that I make overall in life. It's difficult for me to translate out of my deeply driven D-ness. So that's kind of sort of what we're talking about today. The theme of today's Church of Splendor homily is your best year yet. And it is January 4th, 2015. It is 4 days into the new year. And a really good time to be talking about the new year, because the new year happened on a weekday this week. It happened on Thursday. And whatever resolutions you might have made may already be forgotten by now. That's not altogether tragic, because you can do better in any case, and that's what I'm all about. I published right at New Year's, I published an evergreen essay that I wrote several years ago, How to Master Something Difficult, about setting not a New Year's resolution, but a real serious goal and objective, something that has been preying upon you for your entire life, something that you've wanted to accomplish. So this is the year to get that started. This is the year to get that process begun. And I had a wonderful letter from the cul-de-sac hero, a wonderful email on New Year's Eve, in which he was talking about the ways that I've influenced him. altogether 36 people a week watch these movies right now. In the long run, I expect that to change, but the long run could be a very long run, and I don't care either way. I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for you. But I'm grateful. I'm happy that I am having an influence, and I'm happy to be having an influence on him because I happen to really like him. I think he's really doing wonderful things with his life, and I want to encourage him in those pursuits. But he sent me this wonderful email, and I'm not even going to talk about that. And instead, I want to talk about a tweet that he put up on Twitter referencing that essay, How to Master Something Difficult in the New Year. And he said, what did I master in 2014? Bach's Minuet, Beethoven's Fur Elise and Moonlight Sonata, Chopin in 2015. That's what he said. That is just wonderful. I mean, just wonderful. Obviously, he's a much better musician than I am, but clearly very serious about pursuing this. This man is works full time, and he's a father who's very serious about being a father. His nom de guerre, the cul-de-sac hero, kind of tells you how seriously he takes his role as a father, as a homeowner, as a husband, as a neighbor. The whole idea of the cul-de-sac in Father's Day comes from him. I was thinking about a cul-de-sac because of his pen name, the cul-de-sac hero. But what a remarkable 2014 he had, and what ambitious plans he has for 2015. I am in awe. I hope my 2015 is as good as his promises to be. But this is attainable by you. This is the self-help part of our program. We're now going to talk about how you can help yourself to the kind of life that you want to have in 2015. And my belief is that if I can help enough people have a perfect 2015, then I might just have a perfect 2015, and that would be good for all of us. I like that whole idea. I really like Zig Ziglar. I like that kind of folksy aphorism style of communication. It isn't rigorous. It isn't provable. It isn't good philosophy, but it is good common sense. And to the extent that you can listen to something like that, have it resonate for you, and profit by it, you can prove it to yourself. You don't need Zig Ziglar or Joyce Meyer is one that I hear a lot because of my wife. You don't need these people to prove the truth behind their aphorisms. You can do that for yourself. You can either prove it or disprove it for yourself. But little things like that, well begun is half done. I've mentioned it before. It's one of my perfect favorites. Little reminders, little bits of poetry like that. These are how you drive yourself. This is how driven people drive themselves, is with little bits of poetry like that. As long as you make the distinction between Cracker Barrel common sense and rigorous philosophy, you'll find, because you can work all this out as philosophy, and it's all true. It all does work out. That's the reason that someone like Zig Ziglar is still around and still remembered. Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill. And it remains to be seen if contemporary self-help gurus or more ambitious minds like me, it remains to be seen if we stick around. But Zig Ziglar is passing the test of time so far. We'll see what his future holds, but the man said a lot of memorable stuff, and we'll see how much of it gets remembered, how and by whom. I may not live to see it. You may not live to see it, but history will tell. This is what we can count on our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, etc. What we can count on them to do is to tell us what was important about what was going on when we were alive. Important to them, not necessarily important to us, but they're the ones who get to decide, because they'll be here and we won't. But here is the self-help part of today's program. Master something difficult in 2015. I really like that idea. A musical instrument, foreign language, academic discipline, learn to paint, learn to sculpt, learn HTML5 and make really elaborate interactive web pages. Learn to write software. It's a brilliant idea. I've written a ton of software in my life. I won't say that I'm state of the art these days because I'm not, but I can do what I need to do. But when I learned to write C, it opened up a whole new world for me. I had written software in other languages before then. But C is so close to the bone, and yet still so rationally abstract. It was a radical new way of thinking for me. C, like Latin, C and Latin are the two languages that best inform my English. And really amazingly, both because of the logic imposed by the languages. But set yourself a worthy goal for 2015, a serious goal. I mean, if your goal is to lose weight, that's great, but set it as a serious goal. We'll talk about more about how to go about doing that, but it should be something serious. It needs to be attainable. Don't set yourself an unattainable goal so that you can fail and then revel in your failure, use your failure as a license for future failures. What you want is something you can actually attain, which means it has to be reasonable. It has to be approachable. If you want to lose weight, you want to set a specific numeric goal, but the numeric goal shouldn't be something like 250 pounds. If you lost 250 pounds in 2015, you would probably lose your life. I don't care how heavy you are, how much you can afford to lose. You shouldn't be losing weight that quickly, but it's reasonable, easily reasonable to say 50 pounds if you're going to lose a pound a week in 2015. And if you do better than that, so much the better. If you do double that, maybe that's too much. If you do half that, maybe that's not a dismal failure, but set a reasonable, worthy goal for yourself. Make it real, make it manifest, make it visible to you, at least in one way or another, whether you send it to yourself in an email or make a big poster and put it on the wall. How public should this goal be? It should be as public as you need it to be for the people that you want to hold you accountable to be able to do that. And so it could mean nobody. That could mean nobody, that you're going to send your goal to yourself in an email. What I did in 2015 is the name of that email. That's the subject. What I did in 2015. You predate it to December 31st, 2015, and tell yourself what you did, what goal, what serious worthy goal you accomplished in 2015. But that may be it. It may be just that private. You may not share it with anyone else. I would think that you're going to want to share it with the people that you love, with your spouse and with your children, so that they can see you succeeding and they can let you know when they think you're failing. Do you want to make it any more public than that? That's up to you. I would argue that for the most part, you don't need to. You don't need to tell everybody at work. You don't need to tell all your friends. You don't need to tell your extended family. If you do, it should only be because you want those people holding you accountable. You want those people to be aware of your goal and to be aware of how you're accomplishing it, how you're achieving it, how you're attaining it. And if you don't want that kind of oversight, then don't pursue it. Reveal your goal, disclose your goal to the people that you want to be involved in its pursuit and no one else. Which may be yourself alone and nobody else. It may just be 2 or 3 other people. But that's who you should make it public to, is the people that you want to be involved in its pursuit. You should have a clear plan to achieve this, and that means you need to know exactly what you're going to need to do in order to do it, and that means you can't set a vague, amorphous goal. I want to learn to speak Latin in 2015. Oh yeah, how are you going to do that? Where are you going to study? Who's the teacher? What are the books? When does it start? How often does the class meet? How much time will you need to devote to study? I will tell you that if you intend to learn Latin in 2015, and that means that you're really going to master 4 years of Latin in 2015, which is almost certainly not going to happen, but you could probably cover 4 semesters, 2 years, what high school kids would manage to get done in 2 years. You can probably do that in 1 year, but that means that you're going to devote at least an hour a day to the study of Latin, between classroom time and homework time, at least an hour a day, maybe more than that. I can't imagine how much time the cul-de-sac hero is putting into Moonlight Sonata, how much time he's going to spend on Chopin in 2015, but it's not going to be inconsequential. It will take a serious amount of time, a serious amount of effort, a lot of practice. Usus magister optimus. Practice is the best teacher. You need to have a plan. I'm a D. Because I'm a D, I plan to do things every day, because if I don't do things every day, then soon enough I'm not doing it every day. If I am avidly pursuing something like this dumbass guitar, as bad as it sounds, I play it every day for substantially more than an hour every day. I play it every day. I play it really hard, usually pretty loud. I ride my bike every day when I can. I can't right now because it's cold in Arizona. It's awful, awful winter. It's going to be mid-70s this week. It's too cold to ride my bike. I ride my bike every day. Anything that I'm intending to get better at, I do every day without fail, because that way I can't fail. And I'm not saying you have to do things that way. If you're more of a C temperament than I am, you can set yourself a more reasonable schedule, something that's, you know, regular without being too obsessive. But you have to have a clear plan. You will not accomplish whatever it is that you want to do without having some sort of plan of action that you work out and implement rigorously, consistently, without failure. I say hew ruthlessly to it. Hew ruthlessly. H-E-W, to hew, to adhere, not to cling, but to adhere, to voluntarily take up this pursuit every day, every other day, Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever it is that's your plan, 2 to 4 p.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's a perfectly adequate schedule for getting something serious done. An hour of classroom, an hour of homework, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 4. But you have to hew ruthlessly to that. And so when someone is trying to persuade you to blow it off this Tuesday or to schedule something else for Thursday, you can say, no, I'm afraid I can't do that. I have to hew ruthlessly. I'm hewing ruthlessly. In order to achieve the goal I set for 2015, I have to pursue it avidly. And that means that I can only fail to pursue this goal in the most extreme of circumstances, and to let everyday interruptions keep me from achieving my goal is a mistake. I won't do it. I have to hew ruthlessly. And this is doable. This is something you can actually do. I really don't care what it is. If it's a reasonable, rational goal that can be attained, you can get started on it in 2015. You may not get finished. If you're going to study Latin, it's going to take you at least 2 years, maybe 4. And really, at the end of a 4-year Latin course, that's when you'll discover that you've just barely gotten started. That there's so much more that you can learn now. You have a 4-year Latin course puts you at about the level of a bright 8-9-year-old kid in English. You can read Caesar like news. You can read St. Jerome. To read the Bible and to read the New Testament in St. Jerome, you read it in Latin, is a really wonderful experience because you know so much from the New Testament, or plausibly you do. And St. Jerome is very easy to read. He reads like the newspaper. Caesar reads like the newspaper. Pick up Virgil or Horace and you will discover that a 150-word poem is going to take you 2.5 hours to translate. And when you're done, you will have all kinds of ambiguities in your translation. You won't know for sure if you've gotten it right or not. And all you can really do at that point is go read a whole lot of other different translations by other people and compare your work to theirs. And all of you are working from conjecture because Latin is a dead language. There's no one who can tell you what Horace really meant. And even when Horace was alive, it certainly would have been a matter of dispute what he meant. But Horace himself might have been able to give you the rundown, but everybody else is working from conjecture, and working from conjecture about a vastly different culture, very distant in time, involving a whole lot of preconceptions and accepted understandings that are completely alien to us, maybe completely unknown to us. Nevertheless, you can do what you can do, and you can start that this year. And if you do, this year, 2015, will be your best year yet. It'll be the best year you've had so far in your life. All you have to do is pursue what you really want. Go after what you really want, even as you're continuing to do everything else that you're already doing. Whether you say you want it or not, whether you say you like it or not, you don't have to change anything else. All you have to do is add this one thing. But in adding this, you will change the rest of your life, because you will discover who you've been all along. You will discover the soul you've been hiding from. You will discover the man you're meant to be, the woman you're meant to be. Meant by whom? Meant by yourself, meant by your own self-image. The image that you've been failing till now. And how have you been failing it? You've been failing it by not doing whatever it is that you want most to do. This is the year you change all of that. Have a worthy, serious, attainable goal. Be as public as you need to be about it. Have have a very clear, rigorous plan and hew ruthlessly to it. And at the end of the year, you can look back on your email, what I did in 2015, and maybe you achieved that goal, maybe you missed it by half, maybe even more than half, but maybe you eclipsed it by half or even more than that. And you'll be that much stronger for 2016. And what'll happen then? 2016 will be your best year yet until 2017. And this is a process you can carry out indefinitely. I know because I do it. I live it. And I intend to live it in 2015 too. I am so grateful to you for spending time with me, for indulging me in my praxis. You call it philosophy, I call it moral philosophy, you call it self-help, I call it messing with the king. You can have anything you want. You can have anything you want in your life, if you're willing to approach things seriously. So that's my message for you. I'm having everything I want from my life. I want you to have everything you want from yours, and this is the year we're both going to get it. Bless you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you.